Hey everyone, it's Sophie from the Conversationalist. I'm here today in Brooklyn, New York at Medgar Evers College talking to Gen Z about all of their perspectives when it comes to our upcoming election. The 2024 presidential election is sooner than we think, so we're talking to young people about why they vote, what drives them to the polls, and what they want to see in our candidates. Let's go.
A lot of reason why we feel like we don't have a voice is because we don't use ours. Like, I bet you if you ask anybody here, they don't vote.
Do you plan on voting in the upcoming presidential election?
I don't think so, no. I don't know, I just never really thought about voting. Like, I never really thought of my impact about voting at all. Like, when I turned 18, I always thought, like, oh my gosh, I can vote now. But then I realized, like, do I really want to go and, like, fill out papers and really vote?
To be honest, no, not yet. It's not much of an interest, but I do have it in mind. It's in the back of my mind, but I'm not particularly focused on it.
I'm not too sure. I don't really pay attention to, like, the politics that's really going on with the government.
I actually want to vote. As a citizen of this country, I feel like voting actually matters.
Honestly, I try to stay away from all that political talk. I'm not sure, but I do feel like that's an important thing to talk about. Like, we're going to be the new leaders of this generation. I feel like it's very important that we know who we're voting for and why.
Yeah, I am planning on voting. Everybody should have the opportunity to, and like, votes matter.
Voting is our main way of getting represented. It's a good way to advocate for the community, be the changes we want to see, especially this upcoming election.
I'm not old enough to vote yet, but definitely I plan on voting. I feel like my voice would make a difference, even though it's just one vote.
What do you look for in a candidate? What matters to you?
Actually making changes and don't say I'll do this and don't do anything and just sit in the office and do nothing.
Yeah, like changing the homelessness problems and stuff, and like getting like better like justification systems for what happens in courts.
I specifically look for a person who is inclusive and open to different views. I also look for a candidate who has experience with government, who has studies based around government, works with the community, for the community, that isn't removed from the issues. I look for a person that can represent me. I look for a person that I can see myself in, that I could be reflected in, not only on race or gender, but also experiences. I look for people who have had struggles or who have overcome different issues. I look for people who persevere.
Abortion really matters to me because I feel like women should have the rights to want to abort, because not everybody has it, money-wise, financial,
The violence, the trash problem in New York, and taxes, they take too much money.
Racism, police brutality, gun violence.
You see how they have all of these people out wandering the streets and they don't have nowhere to stay, all these migrants coming from Venezuela, and it's sad. I'm Venezuelan myself, so overcrowded all of the places and the shelters, and the mayor trying to do something about it, but as you can see, it's not really working.
In cities like New York and LA, homelessness, drug addiction both lead to like a downward spiral of never being able to get out or having a hard time getting out. Really making accommodations for those people would make a great difference.
The healthcare system and the justice system, which both need to be reformed in a big way.
Gentrification. I know I've seen my parents struggle a lot with the rent increase and having to be threatened to be thrown out their homes. I don't want that to be a future problem for me or my children.
Do you feel like you vote based on your faith and your religion?
Almost definitely, yeah.
What would you say to someone who doesn't think that their voice matters or that they're not planning on voting?
Knowing the history of our country is really important because we know that the people have power no matter where they are, no matter who they are. Even children have the power to make an impact in their community. Spreading our voices before we can even get to vote is very important. The vote is our last step. The main step is just the journey to get people to hear our stories, contact your elected officials, get in contact with the people who could make a change before you could. It isn't less important just because you're young. It's even more important.
Are you someone who has hope in our democracy and our democratic system?
I do. I feel like we should all come as a community and just, have some hope and not always bring out the negatives.
Go and vote.